see if this is working. Test, test. 1, 2, 3. I think we are live. Hey there, how's it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, October 27th. And for those of you who are tuning in right now, just give you a moment to pop onto the live stream. I see people jumping on board right there now. We had some technical difficulties starting off. I was trying to set up a new webcam or a different webcam. I used it a couple weeks ago and it worked fine, but for some reason, I couldn't get the darn thing to work today. It wouldn't recognize with the live stream, so couldn't get it to sync up. So I'm just using the default webcam that's built into my computer, which it works, but I know the quality is not as good. So trying to up the quality of the video chats, but unsuccessful. But you know what? The most important thing is that we're having a video chat. Video chat, regardless of the quality, the main thing is we're having one. This is good enough, and good enough consistently right here. So let's see. Who do we have joining in? As you're joining in, please let me know. We've got Dan joining in. We've got Lee joining in. It says, this is coming through loud and clear. Thanks. And Mr. YT is saying it's loud and clear. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Because again, it was frustrating because I'm trying to step up the game, get a better quality stream, a better quality production here, and it was frustrating. I was screwing around with it for a long while, and I said, you know what, I'm going to have to just abandon that and start with the old faithful webcam that's built into the computer. It works. All right, so let's see. We got several people jumping onto the live stream. As you pop on, please let me know. We've got Orville joining in over on Facebook. Welcome, Orville. Glad to have you tuning in. And for those of you who are brand new to the video chat, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining into our live stream Q&A. And the regulars, you know, the rigmarole, the routine. But again, if you're a regular, let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from. It's always nice to see where people are joining in from. And for those of you who are brand new, I want to kind of welcome you and let you know how these video chats work. So I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition, health and wellness, any specific challenges related to your fitness and workouts and nutrition. So anything at all, whether it's building muscle, losing fat, improving your athletic performance, any specific health challenges that you want to discuss, feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and I'll do the best to help you out over the course of our video chat. And this is something that I've been doing on a regular basis for years now, multiple years. I've been doing these live Q&A on a regular basis, and we do get a good turnout, and we get some good discussions from them. And just if you're not familiar with me and my background, I've been one of the pioneers to the whole online bodybuilding and fitness scene. Like, I started my very first bodybuilding website back in 1997 and started YouTube back in 2006 when YouTube just got started. And over the last 30 years, I've been involved with the fitness industry, working out myself and coaching others. And over the course of that time, I feel that I've picked up a few things along the way. So if I can help you out with regards to your health and fitness and wellness goals, then I'll be more than happy to do so. But at the same time, I don't claim to be a know-it-all. So if there's something that I'm not familiar with or I don't feel I can help you with, then I'm not going to give you false hope and BS. But I'll try and point you in the right direction towards someone who can help you out. Right? So I got a lot of people, friends and colleagues and acquaintances in the fitness industry that I can probably point you in the right direction to if there's some specific challenges that I don't feel qualified to answer. So I have no problem with admitting that I don't know something, right? But with that being said, again, over the last 30 plus years that I've been in the fitness game, I feel I've probably picked up a few things that may be able to help you in your health and wellness journey. So we've got some people typing in their questions and topics of discussion. Feel free to do that. We got JKS from New Brunswick. Welcome. Glad to have you joining in. Again, it's always nice to have people tuning in. Now, there was a question sent in advance through the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page that I would like to address now. And this is from one of our regulars who is over in the UK and regularly submits questions through Facebook Messenger in advance. And that's something that you can do, right? Like, I know where are we having these video chats? I put it Friday afternoons, which is kind of convenient for me, but that may not be convenient for you. So if you can't tune into these video chats live, and I'm basically speaking to people who are probably catching the replay of this afterwards, you are more than welcome to submit questions and topics of discussion in advance, whether you message me through Facebook Messenger. And I know I have a lot of people who follow along with our video chats in the YouTube channel. We're also friends on Facebook, or maybe you're participating over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, which I encourage you to do if you're not already a member. And you can send me messages that way. Or if you want, you can just email me, right? Because I know not everybody is into the Facebook social media type of thing. So if you want to send me an email, you can certainly do so. And again, my information, contact info is in the description of this video. So if there's any time you would like to reach out, just drop me a line through Messenger or through email, and we can chat that way and get your questions submitted in advance, or any other things that you would like to discuss. All right, this is from Andrew. I just dug it up there. Just bear with me. I'm digging up his question there. He says, Lee, was wondering if you could answer a question for me on your live show later today. And yes, I can. I'm doing it right now. He says, I'm getting fed up and tired of spending so much time every single day cooking. The main thing that takes a lot of time is the potatoes. He says, I have them for 3 of my meals every single day. If you were me, would you just meal prep? I think you're kind of answering your own question here, Andrew. He said, would you just meal prep and cook a whole load of potatoes at once and leave them in the fridge? Do you have any tips on meal prepping? I don't want to spend hours every single day cooking. And he says, does meal prepping and having foods stored in the refrigerator cause loss of nutritional value? Because I was worrying about this. All right, so poor old Andrew, right? He's literally cooking every one of his meals fresh. And you don't have to do that. All right. I mean, like, kudos to you for doing it, but you don't have to. And personally, I don't do it. I have no problems meal prepping. And I use that term loosely because we all have our own definitions of meal prep. Like, you'll probably see pictures on social media, or if you follow fitness influencers or bodybuilders when they're getting ready for competition, they're all proud, right? They'll lay out all their Tupperware containers, and they'll put in their chicken breast and their baked potato and their handful of greens or whatever they're having, and they'll lay out 40 odd containers of Tupperware and seal it all up and stock the fridge and say, okay, here, a week's worth of meal, right? Every meal they're going to eat for the next week stocked in the refrigerator, ready to go. Now, from a convenience point of view, you can't beat it. But it doesn't have to be that precise or that strict. But you can batch cook, and you can save yourself a lot of time. So, for example, instead of just cooking potatoes for one meal, why don't you, however you're cooking them, whether you're boiling them or baking them or whatever, make a bunch. Make a whole crap load. I mean, cook up the bag of spuds if you want, and have them in the refrigerator so you can heat them up in the microwave, or however you want to do it afterwards. That's fine. Same with, the basics like chicken or veggies and stuff like that. Like, you can cook up a bunch in advance and have it ready so that you can reheat later. And that's usually what I do, right? I'll have it set up so it's easy to have your healthy fast food, if you will, by having the food ready in advance. And there's some other strategies you can use as well. And these days, it's easier than ever to have healthy fast food. One of my shortcuts that I love, and I've made videos about this in the past, is these days you can buy bags of pre-made salads. You can buy pre-grilled chicken breast. You can buy all this stuff already made, and you just got to put it together. So my lunch, with more often than not, most days of the week, my lunch is a large garden salad with chopped up chicken breast, and I put that together. And I get the bags of pre-made salads. I get the packages of pre-grilled chicken breast. Now they're even chopped up for you as well. So, I mean, this is super lazy, super fast foody. Throw in the veggies, throw in the chicken. It's already done. Mix the damn stuff up, and voila, meal. It's 60 seconds max, and that's including, getting everything out of the fridge and into the bowl and mixing it up. It's super convenient. you can do that. That's an easy way to make meal prep. And if I want to have extra carbohydrates with it, sometimes I'll take that chicken and salad and I'll put it into like a whole wheat wrap, and boom, then I got my chicken and my veggies and my carbs. If I'm trying to keep the carbs low, I'll just go with the chicken and the veggies. But that's a quick, healthy fast food lunch, right? And that's one that I have at least once a day. I have that. Other quick meals that you can whip up is like you can batch cook rice. Have a rice cooker and make a whole pot of rice, early in the day, and then have that throughout the day as well. You don't have to make food every single meal. Leftovers are fine. Now, you were asking about the nutritional value. Does it change? It does a little bit, but it's the convenience versus the so-called nutrition trade-off is very minuscule. It really is. And I'll kind of give you one that may make a difference is when you're looking at reheating carbohydrates, such as potatoes or rice or pasta or anything like that. When you cook it fresh, and then you cool it and then reheat it later. When the food cools and it's left over, it can develop some resistant starches. And these resistant starches are not absorbed as easily as when it is fresh. So again, you take your freshly baked potato out of the oven, eat it right then and there. There's no resistant starches in that potato at that time. If you let it cool and then you reheat it later on, in the cooling process, there are some resistant starches that develop, but it's minuscule. It's really not going to make or break. Like, okay, and when I'm saying those resistant starches, it doesn't change the nutritional value of the potato or the calorie consumption of the potato or anything like that. But what it does is some of those resistant starches are not as easily absorbed, and they kind of get passed through, almost like a fiber, if you will. Like they'll get passed through. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because those resistant starches can actually help to feed the good bacteria in your gut and help promote gut health as well. Like this, like once you start going down the rabbit hole, it gets pretty complicated. So I want to kind of keep it surface level here. But bottom line, don't be afraid of reheating your food or saying, oh, I don't want to have leftovers because it's not as good as, eating it fresh. Now, don't get me wrong, a fresh home cooked meal tastes the best. But the leftovers, no, don't get me wrong there either. Sometimes leftovers do taste better. Like I know, for example, like leftover chili or leftover pasta sauce or something like that. Like if you're making homemade spaghetti and you make your own pasta sauce, very often when it's left over for a day, like the flavors get to go through it and it tastes better. Same with like a chili. Sometimes when it's left over for a day and the flavors get to, go through it all, it very often tastes better left over than it does fresh. So sometimes it's actually, a taste bonus to have leftovers, but more often than not, it doesn't taste as good left over as it does fresh. And certain foods are better left over than others. Like that's one of the reasons why bodybuilders eat so darn much chicken, is because chicken is easy to eat and reheat. And like you can eat it hot, you can eat it cold, you can eat it left over. And I mean, it's not the most glamorous, sexy gourmet meal, but it's edible and it's enjoyable for the most part, fresh or leftover, hot or cold. Like you can get away eating chicken. Steak, on the other hand, is not the same, right? Like you want to have a steak that's, fresh off the grill there and eat it when it's hot and ready to go. If you reheat a steak in the microwave afterwards, it's kind of like chewing on a piece of rubber, right? So it's not as enjoyable. Or if you try to eat steak cold, I mean, you can do it, but again, it's like chewing on rubber, right? It's not as palatable or enjoyable for leftovers. Whereas chicken, yeah, you can get away with leftovers for chicken. Even fish is another easy leftover meal to eat, just from the palatability and the convenience factor and the ease of chewing and eating and consuming that. Chicken and fish are easy leftovers. So those are very often common ones for a lot of bodybuilders to have in bulk and to have for leftovers. Whereas something like a steak or whatever, that's a one time. You want to cook that and eat that, in real time to make the most of it. But for your carbohydrates, stock up on them. Like have your potatoes baked in advance, or however you cook them. Have your rice cooked up in advance. Make a big batch of it so that it's easy for those quick meals later on, and that can save you a lot of time. right? It doesn't really take much more time to cook for a big batch of food than it does a little batch of food, right? Like the time difference is minuscule versus the quantity that you'll have. And then, of course, the time savings from having that one big batch of food versus multiple little batches of food. So you're much better off cooking in bulk. And again, the little bit of nutritional value difference is minuscule in the greater scheme of things. And with that being said, I'm just curious, how many of you watching this right now actually have some sort of meal prep routine, right? Feel free to share, like share some comments or strategies that you use in your own routine. Be interesting to see what different people do in their own routines. So that was a question that came through from Andrew. That was a good one. Hopefully it was helpful. All righty, let's see. What else we got there? YT saying, what are your thoughts on weight training every day? Example, legs one day, then chest and back and arms and shoulders on different body part per day. The typical bodybuilding split routine, some people call it a bro split or whatever, weight training every single day. You can certainly make it work. A lot of people have made it work. I've made it work in the past. And the way that I would look at that is what works best for you, your schedule, and your preferences. Because it's not right, wrong, good, or bad. It's what's ideal for you. If you have the time to go to the gym every day, you enjoy going to the gym every day, that's something like that's your personal me time, is something you really look forward to and you want to do it, make it work. And going to the gym every day for a body part workout like that is one way to do it. Because while you're training arms one day and then legs the next day, or chest one day and back the next day, like you are giving your muscle groups time to rest, recover, and grow between workouts, because you're not placing, like, during that body part workout, that's when it gets maximum stimulation. Then during the other workouts, it's just getting a little bit of secondary supporting muscle group stimulation. So kind of like active recovery in that sense. But yeah, you can make it work. When I was younger, I was full on into the bodybuilding bro split, and I made it work, like in my early days. And it was awesome because I loved working out. I had the time to work out. And that was one way that I could satisfy that craving, if you will. Because I mean, I was in that phase where I just really loved to work out every day. And that was one way to do it. Whereas if I was doing like total body workouts, or even like an upper lower split or something like that, you probably couldn't get away with it every day without overtraining. It'd be a bit too much. But when you break it up into body part split like that, you can kind of make it work. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, does it fit you and your schedule? The problem I find when it comes to body part splits is for people who are not as consistent with their workouts, or who don't have as much time to dedicate to the gym, and they're kind of like on and off again, or, oh, I didn't make it to the gym today, and struggling to fit in their workouts. This, like, we go through the different phases. I find people who are younger tend to have all the time in the world to work out. I'm generalizing here now, right? Don't take it to the extremes. There's always exceptions to the rules, but generally speaking, like, if you're single, you don't have any kids, you've got more time to yourself, more me time, and you're into fitness, you generally like to work out, and you probably have more time to dedicate to your workouts. That was me when I was younger. As you get older, you got a family, you got a career, and you got responsibilities and a whole bunch of stuff on your plate. You probably don't have, 6 days a week, 2+ hours a day to be going to the gym, and you got to kind of make it work. And that's where I find maybe a total body workout or an upper lower split or something like that is more advantageous, because even though you're not going to the gym as frequently, you're still hitting all your major muscle groups relatively frequently. So in my case, I like to do total body workouts. So even if I only got to the gym twice a week, I still hit all my major muscle groups twice a week, right? Whereas if I was doing a body part split and I only got there twice a week, I'd hit chest, I'd hit back, then it wouldn't be next week till I hit my legs and arms or whatever. And by the time you actually hit all the same muscle groups again, it might be a week or two gone by before you actually hit the same muscle groups again. Whereas if I'm doing total body workout, I can keep the workout frequency and a slow, steady progression going. So I find total body works for me at this stage of the game. But when I was younger and I had more time, I like the full, or the body part split routine, like you mentioned there. So you can certainly make it work, right? It's just what's ideal for you and your situation and your fitness goals. All right, who else we got there? Phil is joining in. Hello, Phil. He says, I never got to watch live before. I always catch the replay at another time. And this is Phil from Yorkshire, England. Welcome from the other side of the Atlantic. Glad to have you joining in. I know it is a bit late over in England, but hopefully it's not past your bedtime yet. Right? We can stay up a little late on a Friday night. We'll make it work. But welcome, Phil. Glad to have you joining us. JKS says, tuna fish salad, large apple and rice, prepared in large quantities, 1 a week. Total prep time 5 minutes. So he's sharing some meal prep strategies there. And tuna is a very fast food, healthy source of protein. Now, with that being said, I'm just going to share my personal experience with tuna. When I was younger, I ate a lot of tuna. One, because it was quick, it was convenient, it was cheap. And I was eating at least a can of tuna a day for years on end. And I actually got to the point where I made myself sick of tuna fish. So it's not a staple in my eating anymore. Like, I probably will have literally like a can of tuna a month at this stage, because I can't stand the thought of eating tuna. Now, a fresh tuna steak, that's pan seared just right. Now, that's totally different. Fresh tuna versus canned tuna, even though it's tuna, it's a different meal altogether. So I would enjoy a nice fresh tuna steak, but that ain't cheap, that ain't convenient, and it's not the, it ain't nothing like canned tuna, I can tell you that. But from a convenience point of view, you can't beat canned tuna. As far as the price is concerned, it's not as cheap as it used to be, and of course that applies to all food these days, right? I mean, I remember buying tuna, like $1 a can or less. Sometimes you get them for 50 cents a can or whatever. Like, it was cheap. But now, heck, you go to the grocery store, like even the no-name brands are upwards of $2 a can or more. Like, it's crazy how food has just gone astronomical off the charts. And I'm sure everybody watching this, for the most part, has probably experienced something similar in your area. And I actually had some people reach out to me like, hey, what are some strategies of how we can maximize our nutritional value and save some money in the process? So that's something that I'm going to work on, creating a new like bodybuilding diet on a budget type of video. But I'm being honest, man, it's harder than ever because the price of food is astronomical. There's always ways to make it better, but it ain't like it used to be, right? I remember seeing the Facebook memes and stuff like that, and the social media memes, people saying, I don't want to party like it's 1999. I want to grocery shop like it's 1999. Right? It's just gotten ridiculous. Anyway, who else we got there? We have Caesar. I'm saying, what's your recipe for a nice, moist chicken breast? There's so many different ways to prepare chicken. What's a nice moist? I tell you one way that I like to prepare chicken. Baking it is one of my favorite ways. I find like baking chicken in the oven, putting them to like, spice it up and bake it. That's usually how I go about it. But the key is you don't want to overcook it, right? You want to keep an eye on that. Ideally use like a meat thermometer or something like that to keep an eye on it, because the problem with most foods, especially when you're looking at protein foods like your meats and your chickens and fishes and whatever, if you overcook it, it's going to dry it out, and it's just going to, not only is it going to lower some of the nutritional value because you're just cooking the bejesus out of it, but it ruins the taste. And if you're cooking for making meals in bulk, this is a little strategy for those of you who are doing meal prep in advance, especially if you're making food to reheat later in the future. Purposely undercook your chicken and things like that a little bit. So keep it a little pink in the middle so that when you actually reheat it, it cooks it to the proper temperature and it doesn't overcook it or dry it out. So that's another strategy, is if you are doing meal prep in advance, be a couple, like take it out before it is fully done so that when you reheat it, it will be at the ideal cooking temperature, and it'll retain a lot of the natural moisture and not over dry it and over cook it. But that's one of my personal favorites. Another one, if you really want flavor and moist chicken, sometimes go for the dark meat instead of the chicken breast. Like I'll do that from time to time. Like instead of always getting chicken breast, sometimes I'll get the chicken thighs. And yes, dark meat is a little more fat, but I find the eating satiation and the eating satisfaction very often is a nice change. So if you're getting sick and tired of chicken breast and it's a bit dry and bland, hey, probably think of chicken thighs. I mean, still get the boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Like very often we buy the boneless, skinless chicken breast, but just switch it for thighs, and that'll have a lot more flavor and retain the moisture as you're cooking it. And yes, it is a little bit more fat, but it's not going to make or break your diet unless you're really crunching the numbers and you're like trying to get cut for a competition or something like that. But for the average person who's just like trying to get in shape, lose the gut, build muscle, and feel good, but you don't really have a strict deadline to follow, you can be a little bit more flexible with your calories and enjoy some of the moister meats, if you will. So that's a strategy that you might want to try, Caesar, is swap out some chicken breast for chicken thighs, and you'll find that it's, even if you cook them the same, like however you do them, whether you bake them or you pan fry them or grill them or whatever, they will retain more moisture and generally have a nicer flavor. What else we got there? Phil is joining in. I never got, actually, I think that was a double. All right. Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, right there. Okay, it was a double. Must have hit the submit button twice, but welcome back, Phil. Welcome again, I should say. Robert is joining in. He says, how many warm-up sets are good? I'm not planning on being a bodybuilder, right? You're just in the gym and you want to work out to be fit and healthy and get in your best shape. Like you're not trying to impress anybody else. You're doing it for yourself, right? You want to be your personal best. How many warm-up sets are good? It depends. And I'm going to break it down for you and explain what I mean by that. Because when you're starting off your workout initially, warm-up sets are important. Like when you come in off the street and it's your muscles are cold, you need to go through a proper warm-up routine. Generally, I like to do a few minutes of cardio to get my heart rate and core temperature elevated, just to kind of elevate the overall body temperature, like an overall body warm-up. And that could be using the elliptical, using the treadmill, using the rower, using the assault bike or something, right? I want to get my core temperature moving, my heart rate elevated and all that stuff. I want to get my body warmed up. So I'll do that for 5 or 10 minutes at the start. And it also just clears my head and kind of gets me in the proper headspace to work out. So I do that first. Then I very often do some mobility exercises, arm circles, deep knee bends, rotator cuff rotations, stuff like that, just to kind of limber up the joints, tendons, and ligaments. And then for the first exercises, I will start off with lightweight, like progress, and do multiple progressively heavier warm-ups. A general rule of thumb is probably take like 50% of your top working weight, do a warm-up set, then maybe do another one with somewhere around 75% of that working weight, and then you'll probably be good to go to 100% of that working weight. But that's a very vague general rule of thumb because the stronger you are, the more warm-ups you need. So if you were looking at like a competitive powerlifter or an advanced bodybuilder or someone who's able to throw around a lot of weight, they need more warm-up sets. The heavier they lift, the more warm-ups they need. A prime example, I'll give you. If someone can squat 400 pounds, they're going to need more warm-up sets than someone who can squat 100 pounds. Right? Like someone who's squatting 100 pounds, they might just go, take 50 pounds, 75, 100, right? And then just boom, they're at their top working weight. Someone who's squatting 400, they're probably going to do a first set with 135, 225, then they're probably going to do like 275, 315, 365, and then get up to like 405. That's usually how it works, somewhere in that range. So the stronger you are, the more weight you're lifting, the more warm-ups you're going to need. This is especially true for the big, heavy compound lifts and early in the workout. Once you've warmed up the muscles, like you've already done some exercise, like for example, if we're training legs and we've done our squats and we've warmed up for that, you're not going to need as many progressively heavier warm-up sets for your following exercises because you already got the muscles warmed up, the joints, tendons, and ligaments. They've been under stress, they've been worked. So all you really need to do then is like an acclimation set or two to get comfortable with the new movement. So if I was doing squats and then afterwards, say I wanted to do some leg extensions and leg curls, I probably only need like one warm-up set for those exercises and then jump into my working weight. Because the muscles, joints, tendons, and ligaments are already warmed up from the previous exercise. So you'll find that as you work your way through the workout, you may actually be able to jump into your working weight on some exercises, especially for machine or isolation exercises. But it's something that you just really want to learn your body and learn what works best for you. But I will say this, if you're in doubt, do an extra warm-up. Like there's no harm in doing more warm-ups. The only harm is, okay, your workout's going to take a little longer, right? To throw in those extra warm-up sets. But I would much rather be safe and conservative. And if you're in doubt, do that extra warm-up set versus thinking, I'm in a rush, I got to skip the warm-ups and just get the workout done. Because in moments like that, that's when you may, risk injury. So it's better to be cautious, play it conservative, and don't skimp the warm-ups. But again, with what I just said there, the further into the workout you get, the less critical warm-up sets are because your body is already physically warmed up. So hopefully that makes sense and clarifies it. What else we got there? Sean is joining in. Hello, Sean. Says, I'm 240 pounds. How much carbs should I be eating daily to bulk? That's, again, it's one of those it depends questions. The general rule of nutrition when it comes to protein is a gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight per day. But carbohydrates, it's not as cut and dried as that because this is kind of like the wild card, and it greatly depends on your activity level, your metabolism, and how insulin sensitive you are. So it's not as cut and dried. Like if you are very physically active, like let's just say you got a physically demanding job, or you're playing sports or something else, and you're working out, so like you're burning through a lot of calories, a lot of energy, you probably need to eat more carbs to compensate for that. Like carbohydrates are the wild card, and that you can vary them based on your energy demands. That is your energy source. But the tricky part is if from a bulking / cutting point of view, it's easy to overeat carbohydrates and have the excess spill over into body fat. And you've probably heard me say this before, but I'm not really a huge fan of bulking in the traditional sense, where you're trying to force yourself to gain weight through diet. Because I've done that and I have successfully bulked up, but it's not quality. It's you gain weight and you fill out your clothes and you're bigger and you're heavier and all that, but the majority of that weight is not quality mass. A lot of it is excess body fat, even though we kind of play mind games with ourselves and thinking it's lean mass. When it actually comes time to diet down in the future, whether it's diet down for a beach vacation or if it's diet down, and as it was in my case for a bodybuilding competition, then I realized how much weight I had to lose from my quote unquote bulk. And it was kind of like a waste of time. I would have been better off making slower, steadier gains versus trying to force myself to bulk up by consuming this massive calorie surplus. So the way I look at it now, if your main goal is to gain muscular body weight, you simply don't want to be in a deficit. Not necessarily trying to force a surplus, but you don't want to be in a deficit. So you want to make sure that you're at maintenance or a very slight surplus so that you're able to train hard, recover from those workouts, and fuel the energy demands that your body needs, but not trying to force extra calories in for the sake of extra calories in, thinking that it's all going to go to lean mass, because once you top up your glycogen stores, the rest is going to get spilled over to body fat. So you just need to eat enough to maintain your energy demands and to keep your glycogen stores topped up. And as far as the actual numbers, I really don't know, because it depends on how active you are, how much you're burning throughout the day, and your own individual metabolism. Also, your age plays a big role in this too. And like generally, the younger you are, the more insulin sensitive you are, the higher your metabolism. So obviously, the more food you can get away with and more food you can eat without having it spill over to body fat. The older you get, the more tricky that becomes. So it's a very fine line. And this is something that when I'm working with my coaching students, like it's a back and forth conversation. And I'll be honest, like you could go out and hire the best nutritionist, the best dietitian, the best physique transformation coach or bodybuilding coach, whatever. And all they're going to do is give you an educated guess based on their experience of what they think is going to work, right? It's just an educated guess. You know, like, okay, I've seen similar people in the past, and this is what they did. Let's try that for you and see how it works for you. But that's not where the coaching takes place. The coaching takes place in the ongoing follow-up conversation and feedback back and forth. And this is what we do within our whole VIP coaching program over at the Muscle After 40 Blueprint. We're having back and forth conversations throughout the week, and we have regular Zoom calls every single week. Like it's a constant back and forth communication to see what are you doing, how is it working, and then let's go back to the drawing board and make adjustments as needed. And we're tweaking it. So it's never like a constant set in stone. It's not like a mathematical formula or okay, you're 240 pounds, so you need X amount of carbs. And everybody who's 240 pounds needs X amount of carbs. No, there's so much variability in there, from hormonal variability to energy demand variability. Blah, blah, blah. It's not as cut and dried. And that's where having the experience and that intuition really comes into play. So I mean, I know I didn't really answer your question because I can't, right? I'm just trying to explain that. But if this is something you'd like some help with, you know, you'd customize a lean gain body recomposition meal plan, you know, so that you can pack on lean muscle without getting fat in the process, feel free to reach out to me. Like that's one of the phases in the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. It's the lean gain body recomp, where we focus on filling out your frame with lean mass while keeping your body fat low in the process. And if that's what you're trying to do, then I think that would be an ideal phase for you. And if it's something you're interested in, you're on Facebook, drop me a message through Messenger, and you know, we can chat about it. I can actually send you a copy of the Muscle After 40 Blueprint PDF, so you can go check it out for yourself. All right, where else are we? Moving on here now. Jason says, hey, coach, what's your recommendation for executing the barbell row in regards to bar path and where you pull the bar in? All right, that's a great question, and has multiple questions. We can manipulate it based on what we're trying to achieve. But generally speaking, the barbell row is kind of like that mass building exercise for the lats. And I usually recommend rowing lower on your stomach, like row to your gut. That's, you know, somewhere around the belly button area. That's where the barbell should generally touch your torso. If you row too high, like up towards the chest, nipple area, or even higher, like I've even seen some guys try to row the bar to their neck or whatever, that's more of an upper back rear delt exercise. And there's a time and a place for those type of movements, but that would be better done in some sort of a face pull type of exercise, or maybe a high machine row for those exercises. But the barbell row, that's a heavy compound movement generally for the lats. So to really activate the lats, you know, the meaty wings of the back, you want to be rowing that barbell lower on your stomach. So row it in towards your belly button gut area. That's where it should be touching. And you don't need to bend over excessively at the waist. Like having your torso at around a 45-degree angle will put you in a stronger position structurally, so that you're not leaning over so far that you're going to risk injuring your lower back, and it'll allow you to really get a good contraction in your lats. And I actually made a video clip recently. It was one of a YouTube short, and I actually posted it on Facebook as well. It's a Facebook reel and a YouTube short, but it's literally just a 1-minute clip showing the barbell row and how to maximize muscle activation in the lats. So if you head on over to my Facebook account, because I know you're watching from Facebook, that's why I'm suggesting this. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can do the same thing over on YouTube, but go either to the Facebook Reels over at my profile, Lee Hayward, or you can go to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel and open up the shorts and scroll through, and there's a reel there demonstrating the barbell row. Let me just, to save the hassle and try and explain it, I'll just grab the link real quick. Where is it? The title says, "Can't feel your back muscles during rows? Try this." I'm just going to grab the. Oh shit, that's the wrong one. Where are we to? I'm grabbing the link. I think I'm grabbing the link. There it is. Okay. Share, copy. All right. All right. I'm going to post it there in our comments. So barbell row video. You'll know what I mean. All right. Just go check it out. You'll see a demo of how the technique should look. So again, you notice I'm not fully bent over, not flat back. It's more like a 45-degree angle with my torso and rowing the barbell to the stomach. And the key with the rows, again, you want to get your elbows back. Like, you probably heard this before, but visualize your hands as hooks, just making the connection with the barbell, and really focus on rowing your elbows back. Not necessarily pulling your arms back or flexing your biceps, but getting your elbows back. Because once you get those elbows back, that's what's going to activate the lats and get maximum that contraction. And that's one of the things you really want to focus on, is getting the elbows back, holding that peak contraction for a second at the top, really get that mind-muscle connection, and do that with each repetition. And another thing that I want to emphasize here, start off light, like ridiculously light, like even the empty barbell light. Like, if you should be able to feel your lats contracting with the empty barbell. If you can't, you need to master your form and get that mind-muscle connection going. Once you can actually feel your lats working and contracting with the empty barbell, then you can go ahead and add weight and train in a progressive overload fashion while maintaining that mind-muscle connection. A big problem a lot of guys have with back is they just get into heaving and jerking weight. And yes, indirectly, that's going to help to stimulate the back, but it's not going to maximize growth, especially in the lats, and build that nice wide V-shaped back. You need to get that mind-muscle connection. Like, a lot of guys, when they're doing the rows, they're almost like someone trying to pull over a lawnmower. They're just heaving and jerking, and there's no real mind-muscle connection. It's just simply getting the weight from point A to point B. You need to slow down the tempo and really focus on squeezing the lat muscles if you want to maximize growth in the back. And that's what we're trying to do here with the barbell row. So go check out that clip, and that should get you on the right track. Moving on, we have Terrence joining us. Full meal prep on and off the road truck driver. I stick to vegetables, fruit, and lean meats, and chocolate in small doses. To stay fit, I take my bands, jump rope, and dumbbells along for the ride. Making it work, right? I mean, I respect that, right? I do respect that. And focus on natural, unprocessed foods most of the time, satisfying the sweet tooth a little bit. You know, in moderation, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, we have to live a little, and if that helps you to maintain your sanity and stay on track, you know, you can still enjoy a little bit of chocolate and some of the, you know, the not so good foods in moderation. And that's one of the secrets is to making this a sustainable lifestyle, is finding out, like, how can you balance that? How can you balance eating the foods you enjoy and still being good enough to make progress? And it's like walking a tightrope, right? You know, like, it's the knife's edge, but you can make it work, right? You can make it work. It doesn't have to be the all or nothing extreme approach. But the big one, of course, is just having that overall consistency. So again, thanks for sharing that, Terrence. You know, much respect for making it work. Who else we got there? We have Miggy. How many pounds should I be losing per week if I'm 4 weeks out? I'm assuming 4 weeks out from a bodybuilding competition or something along those lines. Honestly, you should be within 10 pounds of your goal weight by 4 weeks out. And I'm factoring in water, weight, etc. You know, like all that. Like, by a month out, if you're on track, now again, I don't know what you're competing in or what your competition history is or any of this, but I'm just kind of going to like share what I found worked for me back when I was competing and how I was able to nail my conditioning finally. Was wanted to be in shape at least a month out. Like if I had to, I could step on stage a month out and be comfortable and confident and with my conditioning and feel good. Like I could actually confidently step on stage if I had to. That was my goal. I wanted to be ready a month out. So that's what you should strive to do. Now, obviously, for a lot of novice competitors and people who are new to the sport, you're probably not there, right? A lot of people are dieting and trying to lose fat right up to the day before the show. And you can still make progress and you can still compete and everything else and go for it. I mean, just going through the whole process is a learning experience in and of itself. But if you want to be in peak contest condition, ideally you want to be in shape at least a month out from the show and then cruise on in from there. There shouldn't be any major weight loss happening in the last month. You should have the weight gone in terms of the body fat gone and cruising in and just fine tuning things in the final month, letting the skin tighten up, right? Because you've got the weight gone and you're just maintaining that fat loss, and then your skin just naturally tightens up and your conditioning hardens, you know, by keeping that weight down. But like you shouldn't be none of this, you know, pinching a roll of belly fat and all this, you know, in the month before the show. Now, if there is, like, still go through with the process and everything else, but I'm just kind of sharing. You asked where you should be. That's where you should be. Ideally, you should be in shape a month out and just fine tuning it from then on. And the secret to that, and how I figured this out, was back in my early competition days. Like I remember the first show I did a 12-week diet because I was reading all the muscle magazines and all the pros talked about dieting for 12 weeks. I said, okay, you diet for 12 weeks. That's what you do. And I dieted for 12 weeks. And yeah, I made progress, but I was soft on stage. Like I didn't have striations or definition. I mean, I could see the outline of my abs, but it wasn't shredded by any stretch of the imagination. And as a novice competitor, and this is before the days of the internet, I really didn't understand what conditioning was. So when I got there, I was blown away by like, holy shit, these guys are ripped. And like I feel like a, you know, Pillsbury Doughboy in comparison. You know, even though okay, let's see the outline of my abs, that's not enough. You know, they had crisscross striations going through their quadriceps and, you know, the striations in their triceps and their pecs and everything else. Like it's just a different level. So I did my first few shows. I did that. And I remember the next competition I did, same kind of approach, 12 weeks. And I just bumped up the cardio thinking, oh, I just need to do more cardio. I got a little better, but still wasn't there. And then for my third show, I was thinking, you know, I'm sick and tired of being soft and you know, the pudgy guy on stage, right? I wanted to get my conditioning nailed. So what I did is I basically doubled my dieting time. So instead of starting my diet at 12 weeks out, I started it at 24 weeks out, basically 6 months out from the show. So because that's what I was, you know, because I was looking at, okay, I'm dieting for the last 3 months. I want to diet for 6 months. So I want to be the shape that I was in on stage in the last 2 shows. I want to be at 3 months out and then continue dieting down from there. That's the way I looked at it. So I basically doubled the diet duration. And that was the first year that I got shredded. Like that was the year, like people were commenting saying like, dude, like your conditioning is there, right? You're lean, you're ripped. And it was just dieting longer. It wasn't dieting harder or doing anything crazy. It was dieting longer. And that's something that all of you who are training for fat loss, that is something, take that to the bank. The secret to fat loss is not dieting harder. It's dieting longer. Now, you need to diet hard enough in order to create a fat loss, you know, be in a calorie deficit and all that. But once you're in a calorie deficit and you're losing a pound or two a week, right? That's assuming you're in normal condition. Like someone who's obese and got like 100 plus pounds to lose, they can lose faster than 2 pounds a week because they just have so much weight. But someone who's like you're 30 pounds overweight-ish, somewhere in that range, if you're losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, that's amazing progress. Right. And someone who's like a competitive bodybuilder, even a pound a week is amazing progress. So basically you want to be in that range. And once you're in that fat loss mode, it's not trying to suffer it out, like slash the calories lower or do more cardio and suffer it out and try and force the progress to happen faster. It's have this slow, steady process that's working. and then just do it longer. And that's the secret to fat loss, is dieting longer, not harder. And that was what I did. And I found that once I nailed that pattern, I could duplicate it in the future. And I found that it worked really well. And then as I got even more advanced, then I tried to maintain a leaner physique in the off season so that I didn't have to go through the extreme ups and downs of yo-yo dieting. But yeah, that's the secret. Diet longer, not harder. And ideally, you want to be in shape a month out. And if you're doing that, then you should be on track for nailing your conditioning for the contest. All right, moving on. Baby Boomer Fitness says, you were right. Weight loss slowed down, but still working. Down another 5 pounds this last month, 25 pounds in 3 months. You're a genius. Thank you for your help. All right, you're welcome. Glad to help. And this is another thing we can kind of share here as well, which kind of piggybacks a bit off what I was talking about earlier. As you progress with fat loss, the slower it gets. So when you start a diet initially, especially if you got a lot of weight to lose, the rate of fat loss or weight loss is going to happen faster. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, if you're really overweight and you got a lot of weight to lose, it's easier to lose weight because it's basically like a percentage of your body weight or a percentage of your excess body weight. You could look at it that way. The more excess body weight you have, the faster you can lose it. But the leaner you get, the slower the rate of fat loss. And in the first phase, like especially if you're in the first month of dieting, you got to factor in there's going to be water weight, there's going to be glycogen, there's going to be intestinal bloat, and it's just like almost like a detox in a way. So you're going to lose a lot of weight that's not necessarily body fat, but it's just bloat and water retention and gunk in your system getting cleared out. Once that's out, now you're actually getting down to body fat. So like in the first week, sometimes people will lose 10 pounds in the first week. It doesn't mean they lost 10 pounds of fat. They probably lost 10 pounds of excess water and intestinal gunk and glycogen and all that stuff. So they're put themselves into a fat burning mode. Once that initial weight is gone, now the rate of fat loss is going to slow down, or the rate of weight loss. And then, of course, the leaner you get, the slower it's going to happen. But here's the caveat to that. The leaner you get, the slower the progress, but the more that progress is going to actually show in terms of improvements of your physique. Because if you take someone who's 50 pounds overweight and they lose 10 pounds, they're going to look exactly the same on the surface. They're just 10 pounds smaller, but they're going to look just as smooth, just as soft, just as fat. Like if they take their shirt off, like you're not going to visually see, oh, there's the 10 pounds difference or whatever, because they still have all that surface layer of body fat that's blurring their muscle definition. Whereas if you have someone like a competitive bodybuilder who's, within 10 pounds of their contest weight, and they lose 10 pounds from that, that's going to make a massive difference, because now they're getting into burning the body fat that's in between the muscles, that last layer of stubborn body fat that's in between the abdominals, that's in between the quadriceps, and helping to reveal the muscle separation and detail. The fat that's in between the lines of the pecs. So now when they lose that 10 pounds, you're going to see lines and definition and veins and vascularity and separation. It's going to be like, holy shit, like, what did you do? It makes a massive difference, because where there's so little fat on their frame, every little bit of fat now is just going to reveal the muscle definition at a greater level. Whereas someone who's got 50 plus pounds of extra fat, they lose 10 pounds and they look the same, because they still got 40 pounds of surface fat that's blurring all their muscle definition. So the leaner you get, the slower the rate of fat loss, but the more that fat loss is actually going to show in terms of improvements and definition in your physique. All right, moving on. Let's see what else we got. We have David joining in. He says, good evening, and good evening to you as well. And he says, I've been trying to make it to the last few live Zoom calls, but man, it's been hectic on Sundays for me. I've been well though. All right. And for those of you who are wondering what he's talking about on Sundays, Sunday is the day when we actually have a private VIP coaching call within the Muscle After 40 Blueprint Coaching Club. So within our private coaching group, every Sunday evening, we have a Zoom call. And it's not like this. It's a Zoom call where everyone who wants to attend can attend live. And we can see each other on the screen, and we can chat and kind of like have a round table discussion. And literally, highlight individuals' questions and coaching right there live in real time. And so if that's something you're interested in, you'd like to come on board with our advanced VIP group, feel free to reach out to me and I can send you the details on how we can make that happen. All right, so David is saying, you got another question there, or another comment saying, I cook my meat in the air fryer all the time and it is so juicy. Something, I've heard a lot of good things about air fryers. I personally do not have one, but I think that may be the next kitchen gadget to be added, because I know a lot of my coaching students have commented on air fryers, and yeah, that adds a lot of variety to your cooking. If instead of pan frying or baking or boiling or whatever, or grilling outside, like, it just adds another element. And very often, just taking the same food and preparing it a different way can add so much flavor and variety to your meals, right? Like, you could eat the same type of foods, but just prepare it in a different way, and now it feels like a totally different meal. And air fryer is a great way to, again, get that cooking and taste, and do so with minimal fat. So yeah, good for you. I mean, I'm definitely going to look into getting one. Maybe that'll be a gift from Santa Claus. Who knows? Let's see. Lee Dunnigan's joining. He says, do you have any thoughts on melatonin supplements? I used to use a melatonin spray under the tongue to help me sleep, and it worked well. They don't sell it now in the UK, which is a bit frustrating. I have no experience with a melatonin spray, but I do use melatonin supplements. In the one I use is actually a chewable chewable tablet. It's Weber Naturals, I believe it is the brand, and it's got melatonin, L-theanine, and 5-HTP, I believe it is. I'm just thinking off the top of my noggin here now. I'm going to look it up here. Just give me a second here. It's called Weber Naturals Super Sleep. That's the one I use. And I find, I mean, it's not a miracle product, but it's good. I'm going to share my screen here and show you the one I'm talking about here. Just give me a moment. Share screen. Where's the share screen button? Share screen. There we go. And here it is. See, this should pop up on the screen. Share the bugger. There we go. Let me move your question there, Deb Lee. That's the one I use. I actually get it at Costco. Costco in Canada carries it. I don't know about Costco in the US. I haven't been to the Costco in the United States for a while, so I can't really comment. And as far as Costco in Europe or other parts of the world, I don't know, but you can order this off Amazon. This is where I'm looking at this too right now. This is on Amazon carries it, but just search for Weber Naturals Super Sleep, and it's melatonin, L-theanine, and 5-HTP. Yeah, I was right. Okay. So that's, and I find it helps. I take 2 of them about an hour before I go to bed. And that's the kicker with sleep supplements like melatonin and things like that. Like, don't expect to take it and then like fall asleep right away. It takes a while for it to get into your system and actually start working. And even natural melatonin production, that's the way that works. So take it like an hour or more before you actually want to go to sleep, right? Like, and I would actually recommend for anybody who's struggling with sleep is a little hack is to set an alarm, but instead of an alarm to wake you up and tell you time to get your ass out of bed, have an alarm as a reverse alarm, this is a cue to tell you to start your bedtime routine, and ideally start it about an hour before. If you want to do it a bit more, but start off, try it 1 hour before bed. So like, let's say you want to be in bed by 10, have the alarm go off by 9. And when that goes off, you start your bedtime routine. So you turn off your electronic devices, you dim the lights, you do whatever you need to do as far as, you're cleaning up and you're brushing your teeth and bathe and shower and whatever crap you got to do, get your stuff, your clothes together for the next day, that type. So you start your bedtime routine, do all your things. And this is the when that hour alarm goes off, that's when you would take your sleep supplements, whether it's melatonin or whatever it is you're having, or your chamomile tea or whatever you're going to have. Start that bedtime routine an hour before, and then it makes it that much easier for when the time arrives that you do want to be in bed. you're actually ready to go to bed and you're more relaxed and able to fall asleep faster. So that's what I would do in this situation. And in my case, the way I go about it is when my son Harvey goes to bed, which is usually around 8:30 ish. I mean, with the way it is with kids, sometimes they stay up later or whatever. But we're trying to get him in the bed 8:30, and once he's in bed and settled away, then I start my pre-bed routine. So I start going through all this that I just mentioned, so that I'm usually in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's ideally when I want to be in bed, and I find that if I make that a routine, it works well, and I tend to sleep better. And that super sleep supplement is part of my routine. Yeah. I've never personally used the which one was it he mentioned there? Melatonin spray, but honestly, I don't think there's any magical benefit of a spray versus a chewable tablet versus a capsule. I mean, it's all going to get in your system, and the idea is you want to take it so it gives time to be absorbed. I'm sure a spray would probably get absorbed a bit faster. But if you took the tablets or the capsules or the chewables or whatever, you just took it a little earlier, it's still going to have the same impact. It's still going to get in your system one way or the other. It's probably actually easier to monitor the dose with a tablet or a capsule versus a spray. But that's what I use, and I find it works quite well. All right, who else we got there? Baby Boomer Fitness sponsored the chat. Thank you so much again for your support. Let me just open that. Where is that to? Show that. Here's $20 for your air fryer fund. They're great to cook meat in. Thank you for your insights. I appreciate that. All right. Well, now I'm going to have to get me an air fryer. Now I'm saving up for one. I got $20. $20 for the air fryer. All right. Much appreciated. Thank you. I got to say, when we get an air fryer and make a meal, I'll have to take a picture or make a little video clip and share it with you. Much appreciated. All right, where else were we? I lost my spot there in the chat, right? Looking at my air fryer bank account there. Where was I? There we go. Caesar. Remember the 6x6 training videos? Great videos. Made them years ago. Yes, I do remember those. And obviously, I guess you've been checking them out. That was the Vince Gironda 6x6 workout program. Oh, my God, that was a while back. That must have been 10 plus years ago, if I had to guess. Yeah, that was kind of like the heyday when I was really making a lot of videos. But yeah, there's a playlist. If you want to check them out, the ones that Caesar's mentioned there, go to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. And in the playlist tab, scroll through. It's an older playlist, but there should be the Vince Gironda 6x6 or something along those lines. Let me just see if I can find it real quick there. You got me intrigued here now. I'm curious to see. Go to playlists. What's the title of the playlist? It's way down yonder. Boy, how far back does that go? Geez, I'm drawing a blank here, man. I'm looking through all my playlists and I can't find it. It got to be there somewhere. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's literally called Vince Gironda's 6x6 workouts. And seeing I took the time to go look it up, I'm going to copy the link into our chat window. And when it was made 9 years ago. Okay, it wasn't as long ago as I thought. Right? I know 9 years in internet years is still like, the ice age ago, but it doesn't seem that long ago to me, right? I'll just say that. But here's the Vince Gironda 6x6 workout videos boom. So anybody who wants to go check those out, you can. That's a nice change of pace. Like if you're kind of looking for something unique, some unique muscle stimulation, and the thing I like about those workouts is you don't have to lift excessively heavy. So if you're suffering from some joint pain, aches and pains and tendons, or you're getting a bit older and you're like, I want to put some good muscle stimulation and stimulate the muscles without aggravating and stressing the joints, tendons, and ligaments, that's a good program to follow because it really uses a lot of time under tension and accumulating fatigue because a very fast-paced training program. So you can get a killer workout, a killer pump, and do so without having to push yourself with excessively heavy weights. So, there's a time and a place for heavy weights, and there's a time and a place for more time under tension and lighter loads. And that's what the 6x6 program is it's ideal for those times when you want to stimulate the muscles without stressing the joints, tendons, and ligaments. Andy's asking, what are my top 5 back exercises? Whew. If I had to list 5 exercises for the back, deadlifts would be one for sure. I think that would be a good one. Pull-ups would be another one, / pull-downs. It depends on your physical ability. If you can do pull-ups with good form and adequate reps, then do pull-ups. If not, then pull-downs are fine. But that's 2 or 3, however you want to count it. I would also do some sort of row, like a barbell row or a dumbbell row, because you want to get that in there. I would also include some sort of upper back work, some sort of like rear delt fly, or maybe a face pull, something to hit the upper back area. That would be another big one to get there. What else? There's some overlap here when it comes to back exercises and then other body part exercises, because sometimes when you're training shoulders, you're also getting rear delts, upper back. And then when you're training legs, you're also kind of getting glutes and hamstrings in there as well. So there's a little bit of carryover there. But some other ones that are my favorites that I personally like to do, I love hyperextensions, whether it's a regular conventional hyperextension or the reverse hyperextension. If you have access to one, it's not as common as the regular hyperextension, but either one of those I find very good for the lower back spinal erectors as well as the glutes and hamstrings. So that's a great exercise. I also like shrugs. Right. But you could argue, is that back or is that shoulders? Right. It's kind of in that gray area, if you will. But I like to do shrugs. So I find that, if you want to count that as a back exercise, upper back, if you will, that's another one that I would probably put in there. I may have gone more than 5, but those are some good movements. Basically, I want to hit all the different angles, right? You want to do a hinge movement. You want to do a row movement. You want to do an overhead pull movement. You want to get some work for the upper back rear delts. Those are the key areas that you really want to focus. And the back is such a complicated or complex muscle group, because a lot of people say, well, the back, but there's so many muscles and angles that you can work the back. Whereas if we say chest, well, there's only so many things you can do with a chest. It's a fly or a press. Like, that's pretty much it. Now, of course, you can do different angles and different variations, but everything for your chest is either a fly or a press. Whereas the back, you got like a deadlift, you got a row, you got an overhead pull, you've got the pullover, you've got the shrugging movement. There's so many different movements, and it's a lot more complex to train the back than it is to train, other muscles like the chest or the biceps or whatever. So it does require more exercises to get in a good, effective back workout, especially if you're trying to hit all the different angles. But those are some of my favorites. And again, if you head on over to the playlist section on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, there's a whole playlist there covering back workouts where you can see all these exercises in action. All right, who else we got there? We have Sean saying that was helpful. Actually, thank you. I will message you tomorrow. Awesome. Well, glad to help. Glad to share some insights, and by all means, drop me a message and we can chat about this through Messenger. Right? It's sometimes easier to clarify and break things down through Messenger. So by all means, and for those of you who are watching, if you do have any questions or you want some help with your training, your nutrition, discuss coaching options, feel free to reach out to me. Right? I don't bite. Right? You can reach out and drop me a message and we can have a chat and see if we can map out an action plan that works for you. Who else we got in there? Neil's a regular to our chats. He's over in the other side of the globe from me anyway. It's the right side of the globe for him. It's the other side for me. He says, good morning. What are your thoughts about the accuracy of a 1 rep max and their intensity percentages? Why is it harder to push 70% with 2 to 3 eccentrics for 8 reps than 90% with 3 reps? All right. So I'm assuming you're talking about like those 1 rep max calculator charts where it says, okay, if you can lift this for 10 reps, then you should be able to do this for 1 rep or whatever. It's a ballpark estimate at best. right? Like you may be way stronger or you may not be as strong. And even within different exercises, that's going to vary. And this is something that I used to notice a lot, especially back when I was promoting a program called the Blast Your Bench program. For those of you who have been following my stuff for years, you probably remember it's still online. Go to blastyourbench.com. You can see it. It was a bench press specialization program. That's something that I put out when I was training and competing in powerlifting. But within that program, we actually used a 1 rep max calculator to kind of guesstimate, where you should be in terms of your lifts and your reps and all that stuff. But it was a ballpark estimate at best. There's a lot of margin of error in there. And personally, I found when I was going through it, I could actually lift more than my, or how I might be mixing this up, but my 1 rep max was higher than the reps would state. So like, for example, it said, okay, if you could bench press X amount of weight for 10 reps, this is your 1 rep max. Mine was actually higher. I found I had, especially when I was younger, I had that explosive strength and that low rep strength when I was younger. Now, aches and pains and injuries and some tendonitis issues later, I don't have that same explosive power anymore. But back then it was actually, it wasn't accurate from the other way. But I know some people, like it might say, hey, if you can bench press X amount of weight for 10 reps, then you should be able to do this for 1 rep. And theirs was way lower. So don't like, it's just kind of like to put you in the ballpark and get you some ideas to start with. But your actual numbers are going to vary. And there's so many reasons for this. One is your muscle fiber makeup. Like some people have more explosive, fast twitch muscle fiber, so they're good at that low rep power training, the heavy weight, low rep training. So those tend to be good power lifters, good Olympic lifters, people who are doing that explosive, short duration type of training. That's the sprinters versus a marathon runner, for example. Like people with fast twitch muscle fibers or a higher percentage of fast twitch muscle fibers are going to have more strength. People with more slow twitch muscle fibers, they're going to have more stamina. So they'll be able to keep going longer, like the Energizer Bunny. Right? They keep going and going and going. And then we have other factors to put in there as well, because it could be leverages. Like, for example, like leverages can work for or against you in certain exercises. Prime example, like someone with short arms, short, stocky people tend to be really good bench pressers, but they suck at the deadlift. Vice versa, someone with long gorilla arms, they tend to be really good deadlifters, but they tend to suck at the bench press. Now, of course, there's going to be exceptions to the rule, right? Sometimes you might see someone who's a really good bench presser and a really good deadlifter, but generally speaking, a bench press specialist is not going to be an exceptional deadlifter, or a deadlift specialist is not going to be an exceptional bencher, because it's different body types, different makeups. The leverages work for one exercise and they work against the other. So that's another thing that's going to come into play, right? Especially depending on the exercise that you're looking at. And another thing we got to factor in there as well is any past injuries, whether that's muscle tears or joint tears or bone breaks or tendonitis or arthritis or aches and pains or whatever you got going on. That's going to have a huge impact in terms of your strength. And very often, especially as you're getting to older guys, the reason why sometimes their strength starts to diminish the older they get, it's not that the muscles are not capable of contracting and have the muscular strength, but it's the joints, tendons, and ligaments they can't support the weights like they did. And that's what I find my biggest limiting factor is. Like when I was younger, like in my early 20s, I had no joint problems. Like I could throw around weight, I could cheat the weight up, use momentum, heave, swing. And because I had youth on my side, I could get away with it. But the older I got, the more I found, my tendons and my shoulders, my knees and my elbows, and geez, this stuff is starting to hurt and pain. And that was kind of like the limiting factor. And now I find that is my limiting factor now. Like I could be more explosive with the weight, but then I'd probably end up with, joint and tendon issues, right? That's my Achilles heel, if you will. That's my weak link in the chain now. I feel like the muscle strength is there, but sometimes the supporting tissue is not there like it used to be. So I had to be more cautious and train smarter around those areas. So that's why you're not going to see accuracy in any type of 1 rep max calculator. It's because it's a ballpark guess for the vast majority of people at best, right? But your individual variations could be way off. So it's not right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just the way it is. So as long as you're aware of that, you can kind of like, okay, look at the numbers that the chart says or the calculator says or whatever, and then you go and test it out for yourself, and then you'll know, okay, I'm weaker than what it says, or I can do more reps than what it says, or whatever. But who gives a shit? It's all about just training for you in your individual situation. All right, moving on. Actually, I'm going to get ready to clue it up soon because we've been going well over an hour. All right, got a couple more there. David is saying that fish is especially good in the air fryer. So I'll take the $20 that I got and go towards an air fryer and a piece of fish to put in it. There we go. Thanks for sharing that. Miggy says, thank you. I thought I was behind. I'm exactly 10 pounds away from my last competition weight, men's physique. Awesome. Okay. Well, if you're within 10 pounds, you're probably on track. Now, that assumes that you were happy with your conditioning and everything else from your last competition, right? Because if you want to improve on your conditioning, then you may need to lose more than that. But hey, you're in the ballpark, right? Push forward regardless. David saying, it took me a while to start to feel my back work, but I did have to use light weights. Still do relatively, but I'm making back width and thickness gains. Awesome. I love to hear that. And that is the kicker with back training, right? You want to focus on getting that mind-muscle connection there first, and then train with progressive overload while maintaining that mind-muscle connection. That's when my back started to grow, is once I finally learned how to contract and feel my back. And this is hard for a lot of people, especially beginners, because the back is out of sight, out of mind. Like, you cannot see your back working. And unless you really start studying anatomy and learning about this, like, okay, the lats, where are they? Right? The rhomboids, where are they? The spinal erectors, where are they? They're back there somewhere, right? And even the traps, like, where are they? Because, like, there's the traps, for example, are much more than just the top of your shoulders. Like, the traps are actually a diamond-shaped muscle. The whole middle of your upper back, right? It's like a diamond. So it's not just what points up, from the shoulders up, but it's also the almost the mirror image pointing down as well. So again, you got to learn all these different muscles and where they attach and how to best work them and contract them. So it's harder to get that mind muscle connection with the back because, again, it's out of sight, out of mind. So you really got to be in tune with your body and put some conscious effort into this. But once you can feel those different areas working. So like when you're trying to train your lats, you can actually feel your lats. When you're trying to train your rear delts, upper back, and traps and all that, you can actually feel those muscles working. Once you get that mind muscle connection, then you can start applying the progressive overload principle and really get some good progress there. Versus if you don't have that mind muscle connection and you're just heaving weight around for the sake of lifting more weight, I mean, yes, you will still make progress, but it's not the same degree of progress, especially from a muscle hypertrophy and building, the back in balance and proportion. So again, I'm glad to hear that, David. That's a good sign of, advancing in your training and training smarter, not just simply training harder. How do you encourage kids to do gym work, and what's the youngest age for them to start? Lead by example. If you want your kids to work out, they have to see you work out. They have to know that dad works out or mom works out or whoever. Like, they see you, they'll follow your lead. It's no good to try and tell them to do it. Kids don't do what we tell them to do. They see what we do, and they learn from leading by example. So that's the kicker right there. Like my son, Harvey, he's 7 years old. And he sees me working out. He knows I work out, and I don't force it on him, but sometimes he'll want to join me for a workout. Now, his workout is, and his attention span for a workout is very short. Like, we could go down in the home gym there and do some exercises for 5 minutes, and he's like, okay, I'm done. Right. And he's ready to call it a day. but we'll probably do some body weight squats, or we'll do some dumbbell curls. Like we got them some of those little, we got a set of 2 pound, 3 pound, and 5 pound dumbbells for them. All right. So some of the little tiny dumbbells. And like even with some of the cable pulley exercises, like I'll just have the empty, like I got a plate loaded cable pulley stack. I might put like 5 pounds on the cable pulley and have them do like rows or tricep push downs or lat pull downs or something like that with 5 pounds. But he's going through the motions, and he's, we're working out, and I'm making a big deal of it and trying to, yeah, good for you, pump it up and flex your muscles and trying to make it fun. But like I'm having him start now, and he started doing that maybe when he was like 4 or 5, something like that range. But it's not serious. It's not structured workouts. It's like just doing what a 4 or 5-year-old can do. Now, granted, I'm there with him and I'm making sure he's not going to hurt himself or whatever. But yeah, you can encourage him from a very young age. And what's going to encourage him the most is them seeing you do it, because kids want to do what their parents do. For the most part. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, but if they see you healthy and fit and you enjoying it and you reaping the results, and hey, dad's in shape, dad's got muscles, dad looks good, then hey, I want to be like dad. And that's the way to do it. And that's my main motivation at this stage of the game. Right? It's not just doing it for me. It's I'm doing this because I want to set a positive example. Like I don't want him growing up with a fat, out of shape dad and thinking that's okay to be fat and out of shape. Right? I want him to look up to dad as a real life role model. And thankfully, I had that when I was young growing up. Now, my dad wasn't so much into weight training. He did a little bit. Like he had a barbell and dumbbell set at home that he used to screw around with, but the big one for him is he used to do a lot of cycling. He used to do a lot of running. And I remember when I was younger, like, hey, I wanted to go, when dad used to come home from work and go for a run. I say, hey, dad, can I go for a run with you? And sometimes he'd let me go. Like what we would do is I'd put on my, my sneakers and my jogging suit and headband and all this. You got to think this is back in the early 80s, right? So I was dressed for running, and like we'd go and we'd run down to the end of the street and back, and I'd be gasping for air and huffing and puffing. But I went for a run with dad. So that helped to get me motivated. And then after he did that with me, then he'd go off for his proper run afterwards. And I kind of do the same with Harvey. Like we'll go do a little workout down in the basement. Then when he's done after 5 minutes and, he wants to go do something else, and I'll go do a proper workout afterwards. Or we'll go for a little bicycle ride together, and we'll go for 20 minutes or a half hour. And then when he's done that, I'll go for a proper ride afterwards. But just engaging them, right? That's how you get your kids to want to do it. It's leading by example, and not trying to force it on them. Like you can't force fitness on anybody. This applies for children or adults or whatever. Like this is something I get asked a lot. Like, how do I get my wife to work out? Or how do I get my whoever to work out? My so-and-so, like, oh, there's so-and-so in my family. They're overweight. They're out of shape. They really need to work out. How do I get them to work out? You can't force anybody to do what they don't want to do. You can lead by example, and kind of, if they want to follow your lead, they will. But if they don't, good luck. You can't force somebody to do something against their will. Right? I've tried, especially in my early days in the fitness industry, especially when I first became a personal trainer and that, I tried to help everybody in my family. And every time we got around them, I was always the young personal trainer who's full of piss and vinegar and saying, oh, I'll get you in shape, Frank, come work out with me, blah, blah, blah. And you just piss people off. And I actually turned them away instead of motivated them. So now, like around my friends and family and neighbors and whatever, I don't even bring up the topic of fitness. I do not mention it whatsoever. I let my actions speak louder than words. And if someone's interested, they might inquire like, hey, they'll ask me about it, right? Ask me about exercise or ask me about nutrition. And if they are genuinely interested, then yeah, by all means, I'll have a conversation with them and do whatever I can to help them out. But I'm not going to be the one to force it down their throat, because I find when you try and force your interests on someone else, you just turn them away, right? You want to do the opposite. You want to attract them to what you're doing, not try and force what you're doing onto them. So sometimes it's almost like a reverse psychology approach, right? Like I don't even mention it. Just do my thing and then let them come to me, right? If they're genuinely interested. And if they're not, then that's fine as well, right? I mean, hey, let them do what they want to do. And that applies with kids as well. Like, I don't try and force it. And it applies with nutrition. Like, Harvey has relatively good eating habits. Like, he enjoys eating vegetables and protein and good natural unprocessed foods. And, you know, like, even the teachers at school comment on his school lunch that he packs and think, wow, Harvey eats really healthy. And yeah. And he enjoys that because that's the way he sees mom and dad eat, right? Like, if we're eating the natural unprocessed foods, and he wants it. So, like, he'll want his fruits and his vegetables and his, you know, his chicken and potatoes and whatever. Like, he wants his natural foods because that's what he sees mom and dad eating. So he just product of the environment. That's how you encourage kids and encourage your family. You provide that positive environment and just let them become a product of the environment. All right. With that being said, I'm going to clue this up. I know there's still a few other questions and that coming through, but the hour is late and I've got to get ready to clue it up. But thank you so much for tuning in. I always enjoy doing these video chats, and I never know what questions and topics are going to pop up, but gosh darn it, they always tend to be a good one. So I thoroughly enjoyed doing this video chat, and hopefully you enjoyed and you learned a few things. And if there's any questions or anything you want to elaborate on that we didn't cover, feel free to reach out to me. Again, email me, Facebook message me. And if you want, all the details are down in the description below this video as well. So you can pop open that to get my contact information. And in the meantime, if you haven't already done so, make sure to join us over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. Just do a search on Facebook for Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding. You'll find the group and you can request to join. And that's a great way to keep the conversation going throughout the week. So you can share questions, share your progress, all that kind of stuff. Like, a lot of guys are in there posting some of their progress pictures and workout updates and sharing strategies and meal tips and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to participate over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, feel free to join us over there. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend. Enjoy Halloween. It's coming up this week. And I'll talk to you next Friday, same time, same place. Have yourself a good one. Take care. Over and out. Boom.